Hello, welcome to my video. I'm Nafshia from Making Africa Reloaded, a platform where new mindset, new avenues are being loaded for the benefit of people of African descent here and near. So welcome to my video. Today I would like to greet you and wish you I want to wish you a happy International Day of Indigenous People. Being an indigenous person, for some of us, it really, we might think that it's related only to Native Americans. We have become we have taken some distance with this term of indigenous, and guess what, while we have walked away from this term indigenous, we might be walking away from some of the most I think, if not the most resource that we have as a continent, and that resource being land. So every year on the 9th of August, the world celebrates the International Day of Indigenous People, and I will put, you can see on the map right here, who are the indigenous people. As you can see, there are indigenous people in Africa and in the Americas, so the North America, South America, Australia, Asia, and this population have been actually defined as most of the most vulnerable people on earth today, and with their rights being repeatedly violated. Hence this International Day of Indigenous People. Do you know that actually it all started, and I believe most of you already know about that, is that there's been massive migration of Europeans out of Europe towards Africa, towards the Americas, towards Australia, and so on. And this massive migration, so there have been different waves, but one of the most important wave of migration of the Europeans took place in the 1750s, so the 18th century. And today, when we talk about migrants, you always have in mind the face of a black person or a brown person struggling to enter the United States or struggling to enter Europe. But in the 18th century, Europeans were actually migrating massively out of Europe, and the way they did that is really different. We need also to always keep that in mind, that their way of migrating has been through forcibly dispossessing people from land, from resources, and they through destruction, stealing, killing. This is their way of migrating. It's very important to remember that in such a day like this, that there have been Europeans have been violent migrants. Have nothing to do with what we're seeing today when they complain about migrants in these days. And interestingly enough, even if people are not actively being killed as they were a couple of centuries back, these people, like native people, are still the most vulnerable people in the world. And I would like to ponder just a little bit, and I just want you to acknowledge that you are an indigenous person too. That when you will see today all these hashtag and declaration about the International Day of Indigenous People, that you won't think that it is something foreign to you, that is regarding people who still live in the jungle and things like that. I want you to acknowledge that you are an indigenous person, potentially vulnerable, because land is being grabbed in Africa at a rate that maybe for different reasons you might not be aware of, or you might not be directly impacted by that, but it's happening. And I'll throughout this video I will put different screenshots of graphs and maps for you to understand what is going on, and that as a person of African descent, this is pretty much a day where it's pretty much an opportunity to think about that, and also to come together, different forums, different platforms, to put an end to that, because it's not just about talking about it, but it is time to take back our land, by all means necessary. So I just want you to really take the time. There are interesting programs on TV that we spend a lot of time going through this entertaining content in different platforms, but there are times where when you have to defend the future, the legacy for future generation, there's a need to pick up a book and to read and to change maybe some of the conversation and to make it more valuable for people of African descent. What I'm talking about is that there are books that will remind you or help you to learn about the history of migration. There are books that will help you to understand the state of the state of land grabbing that's taking place in Africa. So these are the countries that are actually grabbing land in Africa. So there's China, one of the most vociferous, I would say, land grabber in Africa. There are countries like Kuwait, Jordan, Qatar, India, Saudi Arabia, Sweden, United Arab Emirates, United Kingdom, United States of America, and many countries all around the world. And it's not just some random land. I'm talking about the most fertile chunk of land in Africa. It's really devastating to see how Africans doing that somehow in our back, and African land to foreigners. And the other thing I would like to raise today is to also ponder about something called overpopulation. It's a narrative, of course, from Europeans, and when I talk about Europeans, I'm talking about Europeans from Europe and their institutions, the body of scientists, researchers, all these people from Europe and who are of European descent, and the European Americans. It's the same people. We really need to also ponder in such a day like this, this International Day of the world's Indigenous People. It's important to understand. Another thing that is important to understand is that the Europeans in Europe, the European Americans, the European, when you look at Australian, like the people who run and own Australia, who own and run New Zealand, people who own and run, this is the same, they're the same people. They are the same people. They have forums, they're at international levels. I don't have to teach you that, where they make all these, they are converging on all these strategies towards indigenous people. So I think this it's a bit screwed, this narrative about we people in the earth being one big family and having to, partake in a fair economy altogether. I would like today to state something that will really remain in everybody's mind. We have on one side indigenous people who are black, brown people that had populated originally Africa, the Americas, Asia, and all these places. And on the other side, you have the people of European descent that really came from Europe, and they populated Africa, especially South Africa. The Afrikaners, they went to also, the Afrikaners are people from Holland. They are people from, they are Dutch. If you look at Europeans in the America, they are Irish, they have Irish background. They are all coming from one place. They are Europeans, all of them. And especially their culture, their civilization, they have all of these things in common. And they are addressing, this way of gathering wealth and, how to handle their interaction with their environment. They do that all together, but we are not included. The natives, no matter how we want to call us ourselves, the original people, no matter how you label us, but there are two. This world is divided into two types of people, and it's very important to know about that, and be honest about that, not just to rise up and start with emotional moves and guided with blind hatred. This is just acknowledging a truth, and as people, native people, to really make smart decisions and putting ourselves first when we are negotiating or when we are setting ourselves to define our future. We really need to understand this whole continent as well, and that we're not necessarily like these people that don't have our best interest at heart. And I would like to really call out African leaders who are still signing contracts with Europeans. Like, why are you doing this? There's nothing good that will come out of it. I would invite the African leaders to put us first, to put our people first, wherever we are, and to there's enough space on this earth for everybody. We just need as a people to make smarter decisions and to stop being blinded and distracted, especially by religions. I think one of the worst things that religions, I'm talking about Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, these religions that are man-made. You might be believing in God, but there is this thing called man-organized spirituality, man-organized religion, and the religion that have been really harming native people are the Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And they came to us and make us believe that we are one block of humanity, all of us, and that they have their best interests at heart. But when we look at people who are land grabbing and harming people in Africa, I'm thinking about my people who are dying in the hands of Arabs in Congo through the Islamic State, or dying through the hands of some these people, some of these slave minded type of people in Libya, what they're doing to our people. We are not one people, guys. There's no need to gather with them in mosques. We're not one people. there's no need to gather with them in synagogues. We are not the same people. There's no need to go to church and gather with them under their auspices. And we're not the same people. They don't have our interest at heart. And it is okay for everybody to go back to their own land and maybe let us have like separate lives where, you know, they will figure it out in their own lands in Europe. You know, it's a huge chunk of land. They have Europe, they have Eurasia. There's enough space for them over there. And it's up to us as well to come back, to get out of those areas and go back to the southern hemisphere where we belong. Because we've been trying for maybe over 2 centuries to try and live together, interact, do the participate in the economy together. It doesn't work. Only a mad person, someone crazy, would be seeing some positive potential outcome as for us continuing doing life with them. I believe that it would be more beneficial for everybody to remain in their own land. It's okay. We're not forced to be friends. We're not forced to live together, because living together is leading for native people, like in a systematic manner and in a continuous manner, dispossessing native people from Africa, native people from the Americas, native people in other area, Australia, dispossessing them from their rights. And one of the first rights is owning land, and the land belongs to native people. If you migrated from Europe, no matter when you migrated from Europe, and you think that the United States belong to you as a person of Irish descent, it's incorrect. The land belongs to Native Americans. If you think you can come to Africa and just because you are good at tricking people, manipulating people, using religion and getting people to sign contracts that don't even make sense, you are not allowed to do that. You're not allowed even to try to dispossess people from land in any way. And I would like to call out again to African leaders, there's nothing that Qatar, Europe, the United States, there's nothing that can give you that is worth the land. The land is the most important commodity. There's no money that can match the value of land. So this is a call for African leaders to stop selling land, to stop renting land to foreigners, to these people from the North Hemisphere, or we have nothing to do with them. And Africa has enough resources to live in an autonomous way. So there's no need to exchange land from them. Even if they give you $1 billion, the $1 billion that money does not match the value of the land. So yes, people, enough. There's too much to say about this topic, but the purpose of this video was just to provoke some thought and hopefully, and I believe, actions from the different platforms to which this Afro, I would say, conscious movements, what we are doing, what they are doing, that we can converge towards really focusing on the land. There are so many battles we can fight, but we will need to pick up our battles because we cannot fight all the battles at the same time. But the battle for the land of Africa should be the one that takes priority in the heart of all people who really care about seeing people of African descent advancing and going into a more prosperous future. So on behalf of Making Africa Reloaded, I hope this video was not too long. I hope that it helped some of us to rekindle the love for the motherland, and to really help us to channel our resources and initiative towards the preservation of the land, for the land to remain in the hands of native Africans, or so-called people of African descent, wherever we are throughout the world, that we, as we come back, as we converge to Africa, that the land will not be in the hands of our oppressor. So thank you very much for watching, and I wish you a mindful, transformative International Day of Indigenous People. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye.